Mysticism by Emma Curtis Hopkins. Chapter 10, Ministry. 10 is the number of the light. It is the Sephiroth giving birth to everything. 10 is the number of the Memra, the secret word of the mystic self, the hidden knower in us all, waiting, bold, definite speech to coincide, till the without shall be as the within. 10 is the I, Jehovah, self-providing. I, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Sidkenu. I, the sanctuary in the midst of thee in all places, whithersoever thou goest. I, the secret word, the secret warrior, the secret music. I, that being declared and none else, show thee hidden riches of secret places. Aristotle, B.C. 384, found that there are but 10 ideas in the world, as there are but 10 numbers. All the religions and philosophies and reasonings of the world but ring the changes of 10 ideas, as all the mathematical calculations of the world ring the changes on 10 numbers. With 10 words was the world built, reads the Zendavesta. The ancient Hebrews declared that Yod, the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is key to the divine language, sometime to come forth from the I, hidden man of the heart, angels, authorities, and powers, then to exhibit themselves as forever subject unto that divine language. Only one 10 character has ever yet appeared on this earth. Notice him saying, all power is given unto me. I have overcome the world. 10 is the rose of the world coming into bloom. 10 is the wonderful mother, desire of all nations, secret of protecting love. 10 is symbol of resurrection. And the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. Make note of the key speech of the hidden light. I am the Lord, I change not. I give power, I take away power. I gave power to death, I take away the power of death. I gave power to defeat danger, deafness, disease. I take away the power of defeat, danger, deafness, disease. All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Here I'll raise my Ebenezer, my rock eternal. I, the Lord, that change not. I consulted with myself, said Nehemiah, and I rebuked the nobles and the rulers. I had given power to nobles and rulers. I took that power back to myself, and the nobles and the rulers obeyed me. I have overcome the world. It is plain to be seen that all who are giving power to death, deficiency, debt, have not spoken from their Memra, their secret Lord word, rebuking such nobles and rulers. Notice that it is I being declared and none else that take away the power of those rulers on this earth, danger, defeat, death. Everybody seems to be declaring for the powers given to these rulers, that they may keep on with their powers, not denuded of their powers. But the promise is unto all mankind, my spirit shall not forever be humbled in thee. I will rise. I will be exalted. This is the day of the 10. It is the number of the great resurrection. And the people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day. Number 9 stands for joy in our own responsive God point. All peace and plenty. The Jews of old had the joy of peace and plenty. They have it now. They offered it to the early Christians as the way of their God with all people according to the inspirations recording in their sacred books. The inspired Jesus of the Jewish religion offered it to the Christians, saying, search the scriptures, but they ran away from inspirations of the sacred books and got up their own texts, poverty and penance. So the Christians have had to struggle with poverty, working themselves day and night and practicing some way of penance for success in fighting poverty whenever success has crowned their strenuousness, or cowering under poverty or penance all the days of ignoring peace and plenty. They have rejected the generous beneficence of him who giveth riches and addeth no sorrow, whose yoke is easy and whose burden is light. Number 10, calling again our attention to our native majesty, brings back to the joyous God self its original I. The Lord give and I, the Lord take away. This 10th lesson teaches us to start over again at our hidden memra and sound it forth till the earth shall hear and repeat the anthem, singing with the 24 elders of Revelations. We give thee thanks because thou hast taken to thyself thy great power and hast reigned. The silent memra, or Vach language of wordless knowing deep within us all, is that language coming to speech soon after being noticed as incontrovertible verity. Look to the rock whence ye are hewn. Look to the hidden center where the inmost Lord and the highest Lord is one Lord. Victor Hugo found himself being taught by his hidden memra, or original genius. If we go back far enough into our own crypt, or hidden super self, we find our own genius, like Victor Hugo's, waiting our bold expression. Victor Hugo wrote about the mysteries because his hidden self knew the mysteries as our hidden self knows mysteries. Mysteries which we may tell forth as new music or new life comes to register on our outer forms, as everything we declare soon registers on our outer forms. How can it as yet be told so that the world will practice it, that we can willfully lift up ourselves free from ourself, till lightness of weight and flawlessness of bodily condition are registered on the locus standi, or bodily self we manifest to the world? How can it be told so that people will practice in breathing those white breaths ever near us, which contain the quickening of our vital interiors, till come, Holy Spirit, heavenly dove, with all thy quickening powers, is to us no longer just a rhythmic figure of speech, but a white tonic to be drawn in by the nostrils. Who is there to make it a practical reality to us that we have given to disease, defeat, death, all the power they have, and that any time we choose we can take back to ourselves that power, till disease, defeat, death cannot be found? When the cruelty that claims to be inherent in the breast of man gets aroused, it runs away with him. Even when woman, the compassionate of humankind, lets slumbering cruelty get going, she laughs at the anguish of other human beings. So other slumbering traits within us, being unleashed, are sure to get the better of us and run us their way. We give them power to ruin our happiness or augment it. Notice the power we give to people to hurt our feelings. Now we are taught to take back the power we have given them to hurt our feelings, and to start over again, putting something to work for us, as Nehemiah took away the power he had heretofore given the haughty nobles and rulers of Jerusalem, and started them to building for him the walls of the great house of the Lord. When our secret eternal God genius, the Nehemiah trait, whom Jehovah comforts, starts over again with the nobles and the rulers now denuded of their overflowing power to hurt, we set them into their rightful business of forwarding our hidden lordship's great work of transfiguring the world. Be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. He that standeth steadfast in his heart doeth well. Stand to the Nehemiah lordship inherent in your breast till it goes and denudes all cruelty of its seemingly well-rooted nativity. Every plant that my Father, my original, hath not planted shall be rooted up. Now we know to take back the power we have given to our emotions to capsize our peace of mind with grief or fear or joy, and to start them over again with new working efficiency, as the Tishbite started 3 mighty kings in the Edomite valley centuries before our era. Now we know that the Tishbite, thus ruling his special nobles and his rulers, was foretype of our own, giving unto and taking back emotions power to hurt, and giving power only to the proper work of setting the miracles of God to showing forth wherever we walk. I have overcome the world is our God-rooted plant, discovered upon taking back the power we once gave to hurt and emotion. It proclaims our secret right to rule, no matter how hidden by grief or anger, those terrible emotions winding always into disease and death, wherever they are allowed to rule. Our hidden gnosis tells us that to sing as if we were the singer, while knowing that it is the singer within who really sings, is to have the new song put into our mouth according to ancient prophecy. I will sing a new song unto thee. Our hidden gnosis tells us that to fight on in life's battles as though we were the fighter, while knowing that it is the hidden warrior who fights, is to have the new warrior rise up with mystic overpowering, so that nation shall never rise up against nation forevermore. A warrior in white shall appear in the 10th avatar, is the promise. The mystic warfare of the warrior in white is already begun. And they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, is the 10th avatar. I will work a work whereat all men shall marvel. This is the announcement of the Lord integrity within me, my gnosis. There is to be a new doctrine revealed to man. It is to come shining forth like a new star in an early morning sky, like a view of the now unseen world that lies adjacent, exposed by some as yet undiscovered telescopic crystal. There is a throne, one above the sheep and the goats, above the pairs of opposites, love and hate, peace and strife, truth and error. That throne one hath promised, I will show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. I have given thee an eye divine, which with to look toward me, and then behold my works with thee. All the doctrines that mankind have fought for and lived by have been swirled around their views of good and evil, truth and error, spirit and matter. The differentiations of these are desirabilities and undesirabilities, blessings and menaces. With slight attention paid to the inspirations of the upward watchers, these views of the pairs of opposites have flung all people into the opposing currents of joy one moment and anguish the next moment, peace of body and mind 1 hour, and pain of body and mind the next hour, the choppy sea of human mutation. The promises vouchsafed to the upward watchers have been enumerated, but upward watching toward the high deliverer has slipped the practice of man. Therefore the most glorious doctrine is not yet expressed. We must do the mystical will of the high eternal. Look unto me, an allotted term, to be sensitive to new ineffable mysteries. And ye shall live, and know, and be strong, and nothing shall by any means hurt you, comes to pass by upward visioning. We must give the mystical will its heaven-allotted term, to experience immuneness from decay, weakness, ignorance, hurting power. There is to be a new doctrine concerning reality and unreality. a doctrine that will hit the confidence of all mankind with the self-evidence of the homely axiom, the whole is equal to the sum of all its parts, is the doctrine of the unreality of matter, as self-evident as the whole is equal to the sum of all its parts. The Hindus have for centuries maintained the non-est of all external things. What seems external exists not at all, we read in their Lankavatara. By such doctrine I am not in a pulpit preaching. There is no church and no pulpit. Jesus never walked in Galilee. There never was any Galilee to walk in. This is a blasphemous belief, said a great divine before a London congregation. Kumra Sami of Tibet could make the trees and rocks and hills disappear from before the eyes of Henselt, the level-headed German traveler. This was evidence enough to Kumra Sami that the trees and rocks and hills were the insubstantial pageant of sense delusion. But when his hypnotic spell was off the German traveler's eyesight, the trees and rocks resumed their wonted appearance, and the centuries-old hills are still standing. The endurance and sustainability of matter were more surely demonstrated by the operations of the sage of Tibet than its non-existence. And the mystery of hypnosis has never been fathomed. Only the promised new doctrine can open the sealed books of many such mysteries of human encounter. The mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. Thus far we have arrived, namely, that with the baptism of the alkahest that falls from the heights, matter and evil undo their laws of action. But it is only by exalting the visional sense that we feel the alkahest, that looses matter's grip on the conditions of life and mind. It is therefore facing thee that our lips open to say, with didactic firmness, what seems external exists not at all. By the subtle touch of grace descending, diseases unformulate. We are certain that my grace is sufficient for thee. We see its sufficiency before the words have been uttered forth. The genesis of all ideas is inward viewing, or percept. The greatest ideas are generated by highest viewing. This is not a new teaching. In scholastic metaphysics we read that the existence of ideas is subsequent to that of perception, and even implies perceptual cognition. So the doctrine of the formulative power of vision is not the new doctrine foretold by the prophets, seers, and philosophers, but it closely precedes it, as the stiff insistence of the tremendous power of thought closely preceded the undoubtable insistence that inward vision gives mystical vitality to thought. And without inward vision, the thought is sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. The new doctrine, just at our gates, to follow close on the footsteps of the living verity of attention upward, is not one that is now already declared. It is the great and mighty thing which thou knowest not, as promised by the angel to Jeremiah 600 years before Christ, and by the angel of the Apocalypse 100 years after Christ. It is the hurrying of this new doctrine hitherward that is sweeping such multitudes of downward watchers out of sight. Did not Jesus promise that in the day of nation against nation, only those who should be found upward watching should be manifestly blessed? And in ancient mythology, do we not read that in the coming conflagration, only he who sees is saved? No instance that I am strong and every whit whole can be found exhibiting strength and wholeness if the vision is still upon the body's misery claims. Only vision above the body can bring back over the track or dow of the vision the healing alkahests of the heights. No insistence that I am victorious can bring victory, if the inward vision is still resting upon the misfortunes and evil liabilities of existing affairs. Only attention to the highest best can work the best into our life lot. Man alone of all the animals knows enough to seek his highest good at the highest source, and he looks to his Maker, wrote the mystically wise Lentatius, tutor to the son of Constantine. The 9th chapter in Mysticism brings to speech the I Am God that glows with unquenchable might at the center of every living being. It shows that the highest Lord and the inmost Lord is one Lord. It shows that visioning high, we vision deep toward Christ in us, the hope of glory, whose is the power and the might forever. This 10th chapter in Mysticism drives to the sturdy Job declaration, I will maintain my cause. So much has been written by the sages of the ages concerning this matter of maintaining a once expressed conviction, that we had better follow up to know the value of standing firm in the midst of the proud waters that sweep over the life of mankind, tempting to non-expression and forgetfulness. He that standeth steadfast in his heart doeth well, wrote Paul, as though some excellent work should outshow firm inward acknowledgement. Beware lest ye also fall from your own steadfastness, wrote Peter. Thou shalt be steadfast and shalt not fear, said Zophar the Naamathite to the tormented Job, as though steadfastness to an inward believing spark would quench the smoke of fear. This is, then, the genesis of the urge, fear not. That is, if we are steadfast to stand by the central spark, I am God, that never dies in our bosom, fear will take flight of itself. Thou shalt not fear is prophecy, not command. David calls his inward spark, mine integrity within me. Ezra calls it his sanctuary. Ezekiel calls it the Lord's little sanctuary. They all agree that it is the indestructible element, the rock of mine heart in all mankind. And they all notice that it is the unworded logos ever patiently waiting for the worded insistence of each of us, without respect of persons. Any expression of the integrity rock, the believing point, at the silent depth of our being, acts exonerally, or beyond the limits of the bodily presence, to affect the mind and nervous system of our associates. Did not Dr. Mayo of King's College, London, feel the exoneral influence, or the influence beyond the limits of the body presence of certain people? Did not Pliny the Elder notice that some people's bodies shed forth medicinal influence? Inward God-believing stays unspoken through the lifetime if one does not choose with firm choice to speak it forth. With expression of the integrity word, the law goes forth from Zion, and the word of the law from Jerusalem. Nothing resists firm inward maintenance of the rock-center truth that lies so still, native to us all, waiting and waiting, bold, silent utterance. All the people bless those who dwell in Jerusalem, wrote a Hebrew prophet. He knew that those who stand by their noble convictions exert far-reaching influence. I believed, therefore I have spoken, said Paul, whose exoneral influence woke multitudes to new life in his generation, and whose influence proceeding forth to this day stirs the faith spark to shake the emotions, as Felix shook, or stirs a bold responsive, I believe, in others, strong in effect, as was the convincing energy of the man at the Siloam pool. Confession of faith is an invigorating practice. I had fainted unless I had believed, said the king. I consulted with myself, and I built the walls of Jerusalem, reported the cupbearer of King Artaxerxes Longomanus, when surrounding enemies crowded him to his bedrock executiveness. The throne place in man is his rock, I believe. It is strange that men have not noticed their own unbreakable I believe, I the Lord, with its wonderful exoneral masterfulness. Signs follow them that believe, said Jesus. The faces of the golden cherubims of the temple are always turned inward. Cherubims are emblems of thoughts and senses. The senses get their cues and clues from inward believing, either as clouds and darkness of false believings, or shining sparks of true believing. Is it not written that his own counsel shall cast him down? Do we not notice in life that the Napoleonic, I believe that God is on the side of the heaviest artillery, finally casts its Napoleons on the sands of defeat? Such a believing is a smoky believing, or a non-declaration of original believing. When Nehemiah consulted with himself, he held his dialogue with the throne place of himself, not with the clouds and darkness around about that throne. He struck back to his Gnosis rock, where irresistible rulership abides forever in all men alike. Thought and sensation are the cherubims of our sanctuary, our temple. They train together. They experience all things of existence according to the depth toward which the vision turns, from which depth they draw their conclusions. With faces turned inward to the rock from which we are hewn, they draw from the Gnosis throne, independent of outward encounters, or if self-recognition is not to the rock of I, the Lord. They draw from the trembling cloud of unknowing round about the throne of hidden knowing. At the throne place, the Zion center, our knowing and believing are one. I know in whom I have believed, said Paul. He is able. This was the believing that Jesus meant, the masterful executiveness of my integrity that is within me. Wonderful things are spoken of the indwelling Gnosis. Thou fillest with hidden treasure. Let search be made in the king's treasure house. Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? With high instruction as to the training of our senses and our thoughts toward the treasure house of our kingship, Isaiah enjoined, Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Thus, without sequential presentation of that which builds thoughts and sensations, all the suddenly inspired of time have set their hand and seal to the precedence of the looking faculty, in all accomplishings and all experiencings. And they show how the exaltation of the mystic sense to the heights is ever followed by its sure return to the sonship center, the unlimited executive throned in man himself. Did not he that made that which is without make that which is within also? Nehemiah reported that only 1 out of 10 dwells at his own center, even among those who have been told the great gospel. And he seems to know why all the people bless those who willingly offer themselves to look toward their own Jerusalem center. It is because they only, of all the children of the gospel, send exonerally forth their integrity's resistless pulling power on waiting health, life, joy, wisdom. Canst thou draw out Levithian with a hook? It was Kumrasami's firm believing that shed blanking over the German traveler's senses. He believed in his own power to give manifestation, and his own power to take away manifestation. But his firm believing was not the original gnosis or holder of his own power at his throne place, for the effects of his believing was transient, while rivers of the everlasting flow from the hid place of our original knowing, our giving and taking rock. Behold, I will lay thy believings with fair radioactivity, is what Isaiah the prophet means by promising that our stones shall be laid with fair colors. When he writes of the sure foundation, the tried stone, he means the original believer and knower at our center, with its tremendous exoneral, far proceeding energies, world without end. To look to the rock whence we are hewn is to begin to say, in mine integrity within me, I believe. I know that I and the Father are one. This was the liver forth point of the Magi of old days, the lever force, the believer executive, never destroyed in any creature. Whoever has looked to this his own foundation stone, and spoken according to its speech, has proved its working force. I, Alfred Tennyson, said the young writer, when all the reviewers called his work drivel and nonsense, and most dismal drivel at that. And he shut himself alone with his I, Alfred Tennyson, for 10 years. At the end of that time, I, Alfred Tennyson, was pronounced the Prince of Song from one part of the world to the other, in palace and hut, among the literati and the ignorant. For he that standeth steadfast in his heart doeth well. I, itself I, the whence and the whither, the what and the why. I, itself I, wrote forth one who had looked to the original rock, the pit of the unlimited self, and such victories over the world's oppositions as this I, itself I, wrought forth, are the wonder of the new age. Mozart felt the music of the land adjacent, and with joyous confidence he offered his inspired pages to a publisher. I will not pay you a penny for such music, said the publisher. Then, my good sir, I must resign myself to die of starvation, answered young Mozart, and he did. Notice what power he gave the refusal of money. Notice what power he gave lack, deprivation. It has been pronounced a lasting disgrace to the land of Mozart's birth that his death and burial were like a pauper's closing down. But were they? On the principle of the propulsive strength of inward believing, how could his contemporaries hold up against such positive steel needles of propulsion as his dangerous inward dialogue gendered? He did not remember that for we are made of partakers with victorious Christ, if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast to the end. Plato spoke of a handwriting on the liver in man. That was as near as he could express himself on what Job discovered as wisdom in the inward parts. By this we see that Job was nearer gathering his cherubims or senses and mind to the inward knower than Plato. Ezekiel the prophet tells how the king of Babylon consulted the livers of his responsive animals to read how it was proceeding with his own outward affairs. The death of Alexander the Great, and also of his general Hephaestion, was foretold by the livers of their animals, acted upon exonerally by these great men's inward dialoguing. How much they needed to know that they could take back the power they gave to the liver records and decree life renewing which the next animals would register. Everything and everybody not braced to independence by looking to his own original knowing and believing rock gets under the projective force of the inwardly stronger among the cloud and darkness believers. that is, under the exoneral power of his propulsive neighbors. Much of the healing done in this age is accomplished by the strongest holders of a healing believing. When the man who believed himself aided by the great red dragon of scriptures cured so many ailing people of England, was his believing based on the original rock of truth, or on a stiffly maintained conviction outside his original gnosis? Was it not from the cloud and darkness round about his deep, I know? When a certain woman cured so many sick people by the influence of an invisible Indian attendant, she was strong in original truth, or sturdily believing outside its inward throne. That is, outside her, I gave power to the Indians, I can take back the power to myself, and need nothing but my own far-extending right decree to cure my neighbors. That was the light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Nobody doubts its word when it expresses itself. From deep to deep the world around each answers, I know that. This 10th chapter urges the finding of the I know. George Eliot declared that she was possessed by an inward demon of despair when she wrote Romola. This was her dangerous consultation with cloud and darkness believing, held firmly till its exoneral affected all the people who read the book. They caught a touch of her inward despair. Napoleon's false believing worked with strong influence on his responsive soldiers, till at Waterloo in Belgium, 1815, his believing that God was on the side of the heaviest artillery broke down. For every plant that my Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Napoleon's plant was never planted of our Father. Our Father's plant reads, not by might and not by army, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. The Holy Spirit is the radio in extenso of God. The Holy Spirit revives, instructs, empowers, defends. It is the radio in extenso of all who look to their own inward integrity root and rest on its victory shedding, I believe, I know. And believing is stirred by seeing. Dr. Evans, the great healer, could with inner vision see so plainly the action of the vis mediatrix naturae in sick people that he could say with bold confidence, you are being healed, and they would hurry into health. He began to see in himself the action toward him of the exoneral energy of some who conceived of him as a menace to their own precedence. Having no vision toward the unhurtable me of his inward foundation, he perished. The far-reaching influence of the mistaken conceptions of his persistent enemies found workable soil in Evans. See how great a defense from damage it is to have a boldly declared inward conviction of the undestroyable me. He that believeth on me hath everlasting life. Let us take today to look unto the rock whence we are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence we are digged. Let it be nothing to us how badly or how goodly human activities are secretly or openly dealing with us. The more executiveness they show, the stronger the call for our looking to the rock, where I believe in myself as undefeatable Lord of the harvest.